Thank you, Jeanette, for putting on this great conference. It's been really a eye-opening adventure. I've been a sustainability consultant for 15 years. I'm an engineer by training. Actually never got my PE stamp, but I went right into consulting, helping organizations implement sustainability. And one of the nice things I had about my early career is that I got to do work on sustainability from an owner's perspective, a developer's perspective, an architect's perspective, a contractor's perspective, and then recently had a lot of manufacturers ask us, what do all these people want out of products? So what I'm going to show you today is our idea, my idea, our startup's idea of how we can simplify sustainability through gamification, not making it a game, but using elements of gamification to make it actually easier to go implement. So I want to introduce our game board, our game platform. It's the built environment, right? A lot of it's already there. It's awesome to work on a project that's coming out of the ground, but the vast reality is that a lot of the buildings are already built, and we have to figure out a way to make them better because not everyone has a budget like Apple or somebody else to build a brand new campus that's 1 million square feet. So we have a lot of commercial opportunity and a lot of residential opportunity, and these are things that run 1,440 minutes out of every day. So a lot of us, when we go purchase a car, the largest piece of information on that window is the miles per gallon. But most of us, unless we live in Atlanta, I live in Florida, so I don't commute very often, but we drive our cars maybe 90 minutes. If you're in a bad city, maybe 120 minutes out of the day. But your house that you left is running 1,440 minutes out of the day. The building that you went to runs 1,440 minutes out of every day. So we have to get better at picking products that make that decision-making easier. We've also seen a huge explosion and the interest, which is awesome, of project performance. We want to see what's going on with our buildings. We want to expand the requirements for product data. So what we work on is we work on getting product data from the things that go into buildings so we can make better decisions about what we're going to go buy and what we're going to go procure. This increasing amount of data, though, this big data movement that we're in, it feels a lot like Y2K, is that we want this big data, but I find that most of my clients can't make informational decisions off of big data. Have you ever seen that? You hand over a big, gigantic lead analysis for a project going after platinum. It's 7 inches thick. Everyone wanted a copy back in the old days. I mean, you killed 72 trees in a forest to prove how environmentally friendly you are. The worst travesty is not the cost at Kinko's. It's the fact that nobody ever opens that junk. I have an entire office full of these binders that I thought I needed so badly 10 years ago. I've never opened them once. So the evolving sustainability characteristics and targets that a lot of manufacturers, brands, organizations are going after have also evolved. When I first started in this town, when I graduated from University of Florida, came into town, was one of the first 100 people to be trained on LEED, became a LEED faculty member for 5 years. But that entire rating system has evolved. There's 16 different versions of LEED now you can go after. LEED V4 is coming online at Greenbuild next week in Washington, D.C. All these things have changed. Everyone's being put through more ringers, and we have to make these decisions faster because we have a limited amount of time. All this extra stuff has gotten put on the plates of project teams, facility managers. The reality is time is not stretched. Unlike the DeLorean that we saw on the previous slides, we can't go there. And this is the diagram. I'm not going to explain this, but this is basically what I feel when I'm a consultant in the space. Again, I'm a lazy engineer, so the software that we build is actually for other lazy engineers. But if you want to go figure out what light bulbs to go buy, or what toilets to deploy to this hotel or this conference center, the first thing you do is a scavenger hunt maze. You go looking all over the web, go on Energy Star's website, you see an awesome spreadsheet. I know everyone here is an engineer, so we like spreadsheets. Normal people don't like spreadsheets. You certainly don't want to go 62 clicks in to figure out what the LCA is on a bag of cereal. So once you go find this stuff, then we go back and we have to connect the data, the waters per, water gallons per minute, or the dollars per kilowatt hour. We have to connect that to this maze of stuff. Then it's on us to do the calculations. And then we have to piece together results to put it in front of a decision maker. No wonder why it's hard to get people to want to do this stuff. This is hard, and if your game is hard, kids don't play it. Adults don't play it. Look at all the games that we play as adults. I mean, we're just dragging jelly beans, we're playing Candy Crush. I mean, there's more people farming virtually than anyone that actually volunteered at a soup kitchen. If we had all actually taken our Farmville time and actually put it to actually growing our own organic food and vegetables, we wouldn't have paid so much at Publix for all that stuff. Another thing that we talked about earlier today is that a lot of computing is going onto a mobile platform. My 12-year-old and 14-year-old daughters will probably never play with most software that we are building these days because you know what? They don't play with software unless it can be driven by a finger, learned without a manual. When I first started in engineering, you had huge manuals you had to read before you could use a thing like Excel or PowerPoint. Have you noticed that software that isn't intuitive doesn't get sold, doesn't get bought, doesn't get used. So we have to be platform independent. And so many of the AEC, architecture, engineering, construction platforms, FM platforms, are not built on a responsive platform. Therefore, in 10 years, you won't have any users because people won't want to do it. Not only does it have to be mobile, but it has to be simplistic in the way that it works. The other thing that we're not doing is we're not really focusing on, in sustainability, the key important metrics. We talk in the platitudes that we like about sustainability, but we have to start realizing the people that sign the front of the checks are the most important decision makers we have to convince. If we do not force that, we're usually the people that sign the back of the checks, right? We're the service providers, we're the ones that sell them things. But if we don't get to the things that they care about, it's gonna be hard for them to part with that money because they're guided by their fiduciary responsibility. So what we try to do is we try to focus on the mission at hand. When you play a game, usually right away it tells you, what do you gotta go do? You gotta attach the jelly beans and get the next row of Candy Crush to go down. We have to figure out how those jelly beans of energy, water, life cycle, figure out what that mix is for our clients, and then show them that there is a fiduciary impact there. I love what Elon Musk has done about his car. Very rarely do you hear that it's an electric car. First he came out, it's the sexiest car. Then it's the fastest, sexiest car. Oh, by the way, it's the safest car. Oops, I said it was a 6-star rating on Consumer Reports and the International Highway Safety Board, but that wasn't an accident. And he's like, oh, well, it's because I don't have an internal combustion engine to come into the cage when I have a frontal impact. So if you really care about your family and you're rich enough to buy one of my cars, it's probably the smartest car you want. You probably want that Ferrari, but I'm faster than the Ferrari. Why don't you buy my car instead? And I think that's what we have to start getting better at, and balancing the economic, the environmental, and social parts, not just economics, because some brands derive a lot of brand value that is just because of the things that they do, why they do them. You know, a lot of consumer brands getting off of GMOs, a lot of consumer brands concerned about how they make their products, where they make their products. These are all things that drive decisions. People pay more for luxury goods, and nowhere in my wife's world has a Louis Vuitton ever come out and said, this is the ROI on this $650 purse. My dad was a head sales manager at Tiffany. He would sell $3 to $7 million worth of jewelry a year. Not that the gold at Tiffany is any different than the gold down the street, but you know what? People want that little blue box. My daughters and my wife are pre-programmed to get a gift from grandpa, and it's in that blue box. It's very, very valuable. I just got to find a way to get more of that stuff so I can afford it. We also have to automatically map the data. I think a couple people have pointed out that Uber is awesome. Uber is awesome, but you know, it's amazing that cab companies probably were pitched this idea and they all said no. They'd rather have a really annoying video display in the back of your cab that blares an ad for you when you're in Las Vegas. And I guarantee you they probably could have had this technology. They already knew where all their cabs were for the last 10 years. All of us know where we are because we have a GPS signal in here. And all they did is overlaid a gaming thing. This is basically Pac-Man showing you where your cab is. Because sitting out there in New York doing this and hoping and praying you're gonna get to LaGuardia on time was pretty stupid. And all they did is overlaid 2 pieces of data. Where are they? Where do you wanna go? And I think that's what we have to do with sustainability. How can we get people from where they wanna go to the things that they need to deploy in a building to get them there? Math has to be made easy. So my daughters have helped me actually make our software easy enough to where they can walk into a school, count up water fixtures for Toto, and leave with a water budget in less than 1 class period. 5 years ago, I would ask the school district to pay me to go in and do a lead analysis for a couple $1,000s. Well, now 3rd graders can go do it because that's all I was doing. I was just putting into an ugly looking spreadsheet, giving back a report a couple weeks later and hoping that they would make the decision. It's kind of hard to argue with a 3rd grader when she gets up in front of the PTA saying, we're kind of wasting a lot of water. Here's the number of gallons, here's the dollar value, here's the ROI break-even point, and we would like to deploy that capital to better iPads or better smart boards. So we have to figure out a way to make the environmental sustainability stuff gamified in the fact that we should be able to provide them a financial analysis with 1 click. What are the kilowatts implications, the gallons, the operational cost? Is there resiliency? Resiliency can turn into insurance or operational downtime. More and more focus by the technology sector is going into healthier building products. Google, Apple are not putting things in their building products that have carcinogens in them. Pretty smart, right? There's actual hospitals that are actually looking at the load of carcinogenic elements that they put into the buildings that are there to help us hopefully heal. And we're starting to get better and better, CO2 being evaluable. We have to automate that stuff. And the most important thing is giving those decision makers a better way of reporting. All the presentations they showed really great jobs of analyzing what that utility data is and where to go forward. But once that utility data is reported and it's higher than what it should be, what we try to focus on is how do we put in products into that built environment that'll turn into dollars in savings, and create a report where just by clicking the different icons on any device that they're at, they can get a financial snapshot at a project level, but then how many of these toilets, how many of these urinals have to be deployed to do this water budget. We did this in a project that we did for Atlanta office tower. Before we got up the elevator, we had this entire cost study done. Just by knowing the number of units, the utility rate, and when they were gonna deploy the products. We should also be able to finger between financial stuff and then the water impacts, because somebody on that project might care just about water. Somebody might care about the maintenance characteristics of that deployed solution. And we have to get good at doing that, because if we can present this data quickly and effectively, I think at the beginning of product decision making, more and more people will actually be able to piece together the results in an easier fashion. Because when we review the actual aggregated total of all these little impacts, 1 million single steps is sometimes better than sitting back and hoping that the client's gonna build a building that's off the grid completely, powered by windmills, butterflies, and with an all organic cafeteria. The reality is that some owners can afford that, but the vast majority of the built environment can make a lot of really good steps in making everything go forward. And if we do this easily and we do this nicely, we'll know who the players are. Where is this game getting done? Who's deploying water savings? We were recently got interest from the GSA going, we buy lots of stuff for our buildings. We would love to know at a very pedestrian level, where are we putting and deploying water saving fixtures and light fixtures? And we just want to have it on a map to where we can actually validate where these deployments are going. We only have 9,724 buildings, 370 million square feet deployed, but we don't actually know where all this stuff's happening. And if you make it easier, you can actually make decision making a little less cumbersome, because right now it's confusing and complicated. And the final bit is to automate it to where it can turn into a game. So we're working with a company out of Russia that wants to take BIM models, building information models, in either Google SketchUp or Autodesk Revit, and with one button convert the entire model into a walkable game that you can play on with any device. And the data within the fixtures and the data within the model can actually come up and show people exactly where the water savings data would be from a deployed fixture. And then as long as you know the quantity of the fixtures out of the model, which can be all quantified automatically, the user can get an automated rough order of magnitude cost savings model. When's the break even gonna happen? How many gallons will I save? How many dollars does that result in? So that they don't have to sit there and rack their own brains doing it. Because right now it's a scavenger hunt. Here are all the things you should be doing. Then we make them do the calculations. We make them do the mapping. We then ask them to go back to their bosses and sell the job. In a lot of cases, we charge them money to do all that work for them, and I think that's a lot of hard work on their part. So our whole mission in gamification of sustainability is to simplify it. Everyone likes simplicity. We want to leverage the data. A lot of this discussion has been about data, and we have to make it easy to focus on the things that matter, present those in a way that the mapping and the calculating and the reporting are all automated, and then let the teams analyze what the best thing to do. And when they are making a product decision, our hope is that, in the pocket of your hand, you can have a lead consultant or a water consultant or an energy consultant. Because if we don't start making it that easy, thousands of decisions are made every single weekend by weekend warriors like me that walk into Home Depot, walk into Lowe's, walk into massive portfolios of buildings. They're buying stuff as they wear out in buildings. They're buying light bulbs, they're buying toilets, they're buying all these fixtures. What data do they have to support the right decision? Because if we're assuming that they're gonna go online and go look at every manufacturer's characteristics and price value and do all that work, we're sorely mistaken. It's just too much work. We're all very inherently lazy folks when it comes to sustainability. It's hard to go into a grocery store now and buy the right eggs. It's free range, cage free. I don't really know the difference between how big's the range have to be or how big's the cage allowed to be. Some of my friends are like, well, if this chicken's free range and having a good life, and you kill it because you wanted, the fancy restaurant, the farm to table meal, then you've probably killed a chicken that had a great life. With a chicken that didn't have a good life, at least you've taken them out of circulation. So it's always hard to be a sustainability person because you get these kind of dinner party questions. And so my goal is to simplify it so we know what the right thing to buy is. So I'll leave you guys with a joke. And if you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to take them.